Right. Hello, everybody. Hello, Employee Branding Stars community, folks. It's our podcast again. We've got Victor Rubin from BlaBlaCar today with us, and we're going to talk about. Oh well, wait. I'm not going to introduce our topic. Victor is going to do that. I'm really happy to have you, Victor. And please tell us, anything you feel it's important about yourself. That's your state, that's your moment. Also, why did you choose this topic, and what bringing today to us, and then we will, start the episode.
Ira, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to the podcast. Like I said, I'm working at BlaBlaCar. I've been here for about a little bit more than 2.5 years now. We're a tech company in France with about 800 employees. And today I would like to talk about how to keep the content on your career site updated to make sure that it's always reflecting your company.
Wow, that's important topic because I feel like career websites are the crucial point when you think about selling the EVP and selling your employer brand. But sometimes I find it old school, forgotten. We tend to focus on social media, for example, more than on career website, and there is a gap between like our career website very static usually, and social media is very vivid and live, and this is huge discrepancy. So updating your career website might be something that is important stuff. So yeah, let's go for what do you prepare for us today.
Super. I think that one of the main reasons why I chose to talk about our career site is thanks to the tool that we have called Webflow, which is the tool that we used in order to update the content on our site, but also to build the sites from the ground up. The tool looks like this. And so, my first point or my first tip is to choose a tool or a CRM platform where you can easily update the content yourself. The tool looks like this. It may seem a little bit scary in the beginning, but after just a little bit of introduction from our tech team, we're completely independent using this tool. And this allows us to make updates quite easily on our website without having to involve tech teams. And this has made a very big difference for us because we know that sometimes you have updates that are urgent. You have things that you need to update soon, and it's not always easy to get quick support from other tech teams, whether they're internal or external. Being able to do this by yourself has been a very big difference for us. And so, since we got this tool and since we created our website in the Webflow platform, we have been able to do a bunch of different stuff by ourselves without having to ask for help. And so I think I would recommend everyone else to do something similar. Just choose a tool, not necessarily Webflow, but a tool that allows you to make as much changes as possible by yourself. Obviously, the bigger changes that you want to do, usually the more onboarding is necessary from a tech team as it gets more and more technical. But in a tool like this, you don't have to code in order to make bigger changes. I'm able to change photos. I'm also able to move sections on the website by myself without having to go into any code, for example, which is why Webflow is called a no-code solution. And it has been very useful for us so far.
Just one question. So it's like you don't need to have a ability to code because that's low code and no code actually. Yeah. So you can anybody from your team can use that. Just one question is because sometimes when we set up the new career website or we do any changes, we use the development version and the production version. So can you share it's like you work straight on the production version, like you made some changes like uploading the photo, and in a minute when you click button publish or save, people outside see that, or you need to work on production and then migrate it on the development and side and then migrate it to production? Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yes, it's a very good question, and this is also something that does get me a little sweaty when I'm making bigger changes on the site. Luckily, we're able to save changes on the site and share them with our tech teams in case we're unsure of
Right.
something. It is true that when I click publish in the upper right corner, they are published to production, meaning that the changes are going to be seen live. And so if I've made some
Yeah.
mistake or if something has gone wrong, everyone is going to see this live. So this is also something to look out for
Yeah.
when you're using a
Yeah,
solution
but
like this.
I don't mean like to. I don't know which version is better because it's like the same as with social media. You just publish something and people see that, right? So there is no like development stage and nobody's checked unless you're using some software for that. But usually you just publish, people see that, people react, and you don't want to even cannot. Edit it back because then the algorithms are working worse. But what would you recommend? Because I know a lot of big companies like yours, like mm, medium companies as well, when they think, oh, we cannot do anything on our own because of the safety, because we can make something wrongly, they afraid to take risk. And you say, okay, I just click the publish button and it's and it's live. So I really like it because it's like social media, unless you are able to waste all the 1 year effort of your team. But it's usually that we've got versions, so you can come back to the old version, usually with a software like this. So I'm really happy you saying that. Do you find it comfortable, uncomfortable? You have like you have to be courage enough, or how did you manage to convince your IT guys to have this possible opportunity?
I think it's true that sometimes I do get a little bit nervous, and usually I only make small
Right.
changes myself. And as soon as I want to make something bigger, especially like modifying photos or moving something in a section, I am able to save it and then share it with them so that they can
Yeah.
publish it. And so it won't take a lot of time for them. I would say it's a big difference, and asking them to make a change on the
Yeah, that's true.
site. Just checking the site before I publish it is quite quick for them, so they don't have to set aside that much time to actually assist us, which makes it a little bit quicker for
Right.
them. I think that you were talking about stakeholders internally are a little bit nervous when we're start publishing changes to the platform ourselves. And what has helped us is having certain guidelines on what exactly we can change by ourselves
Okay.
and when we need to consult other teams, because I think there are two main teams that are quite involved outside of the tech team, which is the branding team and our corporate communications and PR
Yeah.
team. And these two we have to consult every time we make any bigger change on the site. And so then we would need to keep them updated before publishing any big changes.
Great. Okay, so let's go to the next one.
For sure. So the next one I have is it looks a little bit messy. I'm not going to go through everything that's here. I just wanted to show you how it looked like for us. This is a couple of examples of proof points from our EVP. And so my second point is make sure to update the content on the site according to the EVP, and especially put forward the concrete proof points from the EVP on the site as soon as you make updates to your EVP. And this is something that we do internally about once per year. We just finished the EVP revamp a few months ago, and we got a lot of new, not only testimonials and nice quotes from our employees to use on the site, but also we could see how certain topics become more important than others, which help us take this decision on the site. Which blocks should we put higher on the homepage, for example? Which are the aspects to put bigger than others, because we know that this is what our employees consider important. And so these different proof points that we get from this helps us when we create the content on the site, which is the second step of this um, the delivery of our EVP is to make sure that it's reflected properly externally. And so this is an important part from us in the EVP project, is including the career site in here, which we do at least once per year.
Okay, thank you. No questions here. It's a must. So.
All right, great. No, I think it's combining this with the metrics as well. I will mention a little bit later. Is so important to aligning the content that we have on the site and updating it on a frequent basis to make sure that every time someone comes on our site, they can see it as close as possible to the reality in our company. And these little proof points is I really like because I try to avoid these corporate jargon as much as possible because we know that especially in tech companies we try to keep it real as much as possible because we know that the talent that come on our site they don't like this way of speaking. So when we have concrete things to lift, they have some tangible examples of what it's about working here. It really helps them make this decision on whether to continue then looking for the jobs or not. The next one is a slide directly from the corporate communications team, and it's something a little bit similar to what I was talking about earlier. And it's deciding exactly what information is going on the site and keeping the different metrics updated. And so the topic I want to talk about is keeping the content updated, and there are always different content coming in from different teams. And I mentioned earlier that we always need to stay close to different teams like PR, corporate communications, brand, and so on, because they always have new messaging that is sent out to our clients and our members. And we always have new messaging going out to talent. And PR, who is working with our corporate brand, also want to be involved in these different types of updates. So there are certain metrics, as the ones you see on this slide here, that we have 27 million active members that they really want to put forward. And so it is important for us then to find a way to weigh all the different things that we have from the EVP, for example, that we want to put forward in the front, and the different metrics that we have coming from other internal stakeholders, and making a decision on which is the final metrics and which is the final messaging that we want to feature on the career site.
Sorry. Right. So it's like how often you update that the numbers because this is that's yearly updates, right? Into 2023.
Exactly. So there, sorry, there are different metrics that we update during different times. For example, the ones that you see here is exactly once per year because it is part of our extra financial performance report that we send out every year, where all of these different metrics are audited from an external company. And so we will get a sure number that we can communicate from this audit that will then be published in this report. So as this is also a big work from the corporate communications team, they want to communicate these numbers as much as possible and also want us to highlight them high on our career site, as it is also an important way for
Yeah.
them to communicate our corporate brand.
Right. Yeah. Great.
And then there are other surveys that we do, different audits, especially when it comes to diversity and impact that we have in our separate page, which is highlighting things like how many nationalities that we have in the company, how different scores that we have related to gender parity. And these are coming along the year, and there are certain figures that are updated in real time. But I do have a separate slide on kind of the schedule that we have and when to update different metrics on the career site. But what is what we keep working on is the layout of the different pages,
Right.
and how to decide which numbers come up first, which can sometimes be a little bit tricky when different stakeholders have different priorities.
Are you going to address that later on, right? Or can I,
Yes, exactly.
right.
Especially on the scheduling part, because it is true that we have a lot of feedback, we have a lot of data coming in on a regular basis, but it's not my full time job to sit on our career site and making it as beautiful as possible. Unfortunately, so we have to prioritize also when we're working on it. And there are some things that you can do easily. There are some things that take a little bit more time, especially when it involves more stakeholders. But yes, indeed, I will highlight that just after as well.
Right. So one question, maybe you're going to cover that, but how do you? Is there any way you checking what is? what people are reacting to, like people meaning candidates coming to the site, and what is important, if it's 27 million of unique active members, or the number of employees, or something else. Do you have any, or you just, it's just intuitive, just let's put it on at the first start, or just open question. I'm wondering about on the process.
Yeah, it's a great point, and this is also something else that we need to weigh. What is talent looking for? How can we see what engages our talent, and which are the main messages that we want to send? That even if they're not really looking
Yeah.
for it, we want to make sure that they know about. And I could actually jump into that point. I put it as the last one, but I think it's really
Mhm.
relevant to take up. It's analytics and data and how we use it to make sure that the content is um, reflecting also what people are interested in. And something what I think is really interesting to see is the engagement time and how long people spend per page. And you can get even more detail if you want to. You just have to set it up with your tech team. What we have here is the views per user and the average engagement time per page. And so we can see how long people are staying on each page. And this is interesting, not only if you consider the amount of information you have on that page and whether this engagement time is reflecting how long it should take to go through that information, but also when you make a change. If you put a video on a page that didn't have a video before, is the time going up? This probably means that they are looking at the video, and if it doesn't, probably mean that this video is either not visible enough or just not interesting enough. And I think that this is something important to keep track of, especially when you're making changes. And what you can do is make a couple of tests. You have 2 weeks making one type of putting out the content in one specific way, and then another 2 weeks putting it in a different way. Is the engagement time going up and down, up or down? And how can we adapt this content in the future to make sure that people are staying just as long as we want them to stay? And of course, making sure that the call to action is visible in the bottom, that they're going to the place that you want them to go as well.
Just from, yeah, that's perfect example with this experimenting with the content. I presume it's live experiment, so you're publishing it for 2 weeks, and then another version for 2 weeks. Just from the research mindset, it's like you do, you what you do is changing one thing per time, right? Per experiment. It's like, or you just testing the whole new layout for these 2 weeks, because then you don't know which change, like is it video or the header, or what is working better in terms of.
Exactly. So it's just like A/B tests on social media. It's quite similar. When we run ads on LinkedIn, for example, we can quite easily create two different captions, two different visuals to see which one gets more clicks. This is exactly the same thing, but takes a little bit longer. We do, just like you said, need to change just a little small thing on the
Yeah.
site to be able to take this conclusion. Is it the image that we have that is getting people to leave, or is it the video that is getting people to stay? In order to see this, because when you change the entire
Yeah.
layout, we try to look at some different metrics, like if they are properly going down on the page, and it's more of a long-term um, analysis, I would say, than the these kind of A/B tests that we're doing, which is more short-term, related to very specific content on the page.
Yeah, great. Another question. Sorry, it's like this is very interesting topic. So, first of all, can you share what you're using for analytics? It looks like Google Analytics, but I don't want to, share any brands. But is it like with your going with your CRM, or you just use the Google Analytics code?
Is Google
Right?
Analytics. You have seen completely right. It's Google Analytics, and what we liked about this is that it was quite easy to set up in our internal tech teams. We were looking at some other solutions, but there are then the cost to take in consideration, and there's also the fact that you might become dependent on an external partner
Yeah.
for your page, which can be fine in the sense that they can give you exactly what you're looking for. But if you want to make changes, then you're not really able to do it yourself in the same way if you would use another
Yeah.
platform. So, but this was a decision, to be completely honest, from our tech team, especially because they are the one who has this technical knowledge, who can help us set these things up. And we just had to tell them what we were looking for in terms of data, and they help us set it up. And what I really like about this is that it's quite easy for us then to get back to them, get give them some feedback about how we get the metrics, for example, and they can also help
Yeah.
us to better understand the data and what we can do with it.
Can you share a short process of how you start with Google Analytics and your tech team? Because I've seen so many great brands doing nothing with Google Analytics, just because they don't know how to start in employer branding. You say, okay, we do not do it is on our own. We are reaching for IT guys. So how was the process in your case? Was it long? Did you just go and pitch for, we need Google Analytics? Was Google Analytics already in? It probably were, in your organization. But how was it? How you convinced them, or how did you start?
It's true that it got a little bit easier to work with Google Analytics just because they were already using it for our main platform. And so it was easier to just add this website into what was already existing on Google Analytics. I would say that the first thing that was important for us was to define the need on our side, not just ask them, what can you do, but to tell them we need to know
Right.
what people are doing on the page. If we need to know how long they're staying on the page, how many people are coming there, for example. And then when you describe more or less to them at least what you have envisioned when it comes to data, they can better help you setting something up. And in the beginning, we try to keep it as simple as possible as well. And I think this is important, especially when it comes to applying the data, because it is easy to get so much data from a website. I discovered how to use cookies, for example, and all of this good stuff, and how much it has an impact on this, the more data you're trying to get from them. But I think there's a risk too that you end up with so much data that you don't really know what to do with it. You get a bunch of ideas, but it takes too long to actually apply any sort of changes that you can then see on the website. And so we try to keep it as simple as possible in the beginning and really think about what is important for us to know and where can we make changes easily, such as looking at the engagement time per page, for
Yeah.
example.
Thank you very much for that. Coming, just my last question on that screen is like, so how do you set up KPIs for the stats under Google Analytics, especially when you think, okay, average engagement time, how much time people spend on this particular site. So how do you know what's the best? Is the more the higher the number the better, or it's like you have, okay, we need like 47 seconds, that's enough, or it's like, because those are numbers, right? So do you know how much time one candidate needs to spend to convert to good lead, or it's, I don't know, it's like just open question.
Well, I think that it's important to begin with asking yourself what the objective is of each page as
Yeah.
well, because it is true that people's attention time is quite low
Yeah.
nowadays, and we have a lot of things to say, but they don't necessarily have the interest into hearing all about it. So you have to first really prioritize what are the different points you want to highlight, what is it that is important for them to know, and if that is they have to watch this 2 minute video on your page, which is already quite
Yeah.
long. But if that's your goal, then of course the engagement type on that particular page has to reach at least something close to that, if you are at least as close to that as possible. So then your objective would be to get it as high as possible, for example, for that page. But we do have other pages that are quite short, and we don't have that much information, but that we really want them to click on a specific button. And so here it is easier to then match our KPIs with how many people are going on that page and how many people are actually clicking on that button. So then we could set up this KPI to just get the click as high as possible on that particular page. And then we would set that KPI there. Of course, it is quite difficult to then adapt the content on a regular basis because it does take a little bit of time, but at least we get some idea on a long term perspective on how we're doing. Are we doing better on this pace, or are fewer people actually doing what we want them to do? And it is time to make some sort of update on this page to make sure that we get closer to this objective that we set up for this KPI.
Wow, great. Okay, so we can go further. I don't have
Okay,
any
great.
questions.
All right, so I had one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's like the topic of what I'm here was to keeping the content active, and in a best case scenario, I would sit down all day just because I love working on the career side, but also because there are always things that you can optimize, there are always things that you can improve, and so what do I at least think that you should do when? And there are certain things that I always try to take care of as quickly as possible, and there are some things that we do on a more long term basis. When it comes to employees leaving the company, especially that are highlighted on our page, I try to find new photos or try to replace testimonials that we have, for example, as soon as possible. So this is not just something that we check every 6 months or every year. Is the people that we feature still in our company? We try to keep this updated as soon as possible, and there are also some other things that could be related to PR risk. For example, if we have some specific metric that is very crucial that we keep updated, of course, we would then be able to use our nice CRM tool that I've been talking about so much to change this right away. And this is usually something that is quite easy to do and something that we don't need to involve our tech teams or other stakeholders in order to make this change. And then we were talking earlier about metrics, other metrics like the ones coming from the extra financial reports. We have a lot of different numbers on our site related to HR, related to sustainability, related to our different local countries. And this is something that we try to do about every 6 months because we do get a lot of new information all the time. And of course, the number of nationalities, for example, is always changing. The number of employees is always changing, so I'm not going to do that every day. But I do set up at least every 6 months some time aside to just look at, okay, what data do we have and which is the ones that we need to update on the career side. And I think this is reasonable to do every 6 months just because you already have a dashboard with all the different metrics quite easily accessible on my side at least, that I'm able to check and update the ones that are necessary to update. And then I was talking earlier about the EVP. I say every 1 to 2 years, and it may seem like a broad scope. It's just that when it comes to EVP, I think most of us know that it's not always an easy project. It's not something that is easy to update and change. There are a lot of internal stakeholders when it comes to who are we as a company and what is it that we want to communicate externally. So this may take a little bit longer than expected sometimes. But I do try to look at these different proof points that I've been talking about. I try to look at these different things that we want to strive for about every year. And then sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But as soon as you have this survey results, for example, as soon as you have done a couple of workshops, they can see that some things are changing in our company. I think that on a yearly basis, you should at least try to think about the EVP related content that is on the page and what is it that we can update now. And this would then also affect which pages do you have on the site and how is the layout structured on this site as well. If you figure out that there's one aspect that is more urgent to put forward than another one. And then we get data all the time. We get feedback on a pretty frequent basis from our stakeholders. And I think that about every year, it is good to sit down and really take the time to look at the previous 3 years. What is everything that we've done? How has our EVP evolved since then? How has our company evolved? How is our long-term strategy looking? How is our corporate brand evolving? And think about how we want our site to look like. What is our main objective? Are we focusing a lot on hiring right now? Are we focusing a lot on some other topic? And think about how we can put forward this topic in the best way on our site. And then either keep a similar setup to you already have or think about how we can innovate when it comes to talent attraction through our career site.
Great. Thank you very much for preparing and sharing these five crucial, you know, I don't know even how to call it, like tips. That's too small. Rules. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you for listening. If you are interested in learning more from the most attractive employers and leading experts in the area, then be sure to check ebstarsacademy.com and dive deeper into the world of employer branding with us. See you there.
And I've got a few questions, just short ones. But first is, how do you know? Just one thought. How do you know your career website is working? It's like, I don't-
I
yeah,
think it's a very hard question
I know.
to answer, and it
Yeah,
because I think that there are some teams that say that if your career site manages to do this, then we're happy, and then there's another team saying a different
yeah,
thing. So obviously, I try to take these in consideration when it comes to our brand team, for example. How are you able to show our brand and to deliver these brand messaging that they have created? However, the main goal for me is really to follow some main KPIs that we set up on a more long term basis, at least 6 months,
right,
but also yearly KPIs related to the different pages or how many, like when the number one being how many people are actually applying for jobs from our career
right,
site, but other ones being how many are actually looking at this particular set of content that we've designed specifically for this
right,
page because we want to inform them about a certain thing that is related to our brand. So for me, what is it that or how do we measure it if the career site is doing what we want it to? Is seeing, well, first, are people doing what we want them to do, and are they getting the information we want them to
right.
get?
Perfect. Right. The second question will be, who is doing all this job in your team? Do you have dedicated person you're doing on your own? Is it more in recruitment? Is it more in communication? I don't know. It's like or different people doing different pages. Can you share this?
Absolutely. We have many different people helping us internally, and I can't say that I'm doing this all by myself. It is far away from the truth. I am trying to coordinate all of this as much as possible, so I'm the one at least trying to keep this long-term vision of what we're trying to achieve with our career site. But then, just like you said, we have, depending on the page, different teams that are more responsible for the content that we have
Right.
here. Well, I also try to think about, well, how can I put your content on this page while still reaching the objective that I have set up for the career side. So, for example, we have a page dedicated more to our product and our tech side. And here, of course, there's a dedicated person in our tech team that can help us better explain, for example, which technologies that we're using with our products, since we're a tech company. How can we communicate properly to the tech audience what kind of technologies that we're using and what it means to be an engineer in our company, which is important to them. And then we have a different page set up for sustainability. And so then we have our sustainability
Right.
manager closely helping us. How do we communicate these metrics in a way that's true and not just thinking about our ambition and our vision and how we want to improve the world, but rather what are we concretely doing today and which are the metrics that we have that we can actually show that we are making a
Right.
difference. So I get the help from a lot of people internally, and when it comes to small changes, I'm able to do it myself since we have this tool. But our brand team and our corporate communications team are also a big help when it comes to designing a layout for a page. Just this is really their expertise.
Right. Great. Thank you. Right. Last question is about the future. You've probably seen a lot of things around marketing and AI, let's say. Do you think it's going to change how designing, using, managing the career website? Is it going to revolution? Is going to be revolution, or is rather you don't think it's going to change anything? How you see the future in terms of career website?
I think it's a very good question and quite difficult to answer, as I don't think we've come long enough, at least on our side, to applying this in a good way to our site. I think that what we're trying to put forward as much as possible is the people and the human side of it. And I know that there are some possibilities with chatbots, for example, that we could put in place. And I think that we can definitely use AI in the future to better analyze the content that we have, to analyze the data in a more efficient way than we do today, while still keeping the human touch as much as possible on our page. And I think we could do that by videos, by photos, and but then using AI to better understand what people are looking at, what we can improve when it comes to the things I've been talking about, like layout. How can we put this button in a better way to make sure that people actually
Yeah.
see it? I hope that we can use AI for this in the future while keeping the content real, by putting our people forward in a good way. But right now, it's mostly dreams that I have, and I don't have any concrete thing that we're working on when it comes to AI today. But I'm convinced that it's going to play a big part in the work, at least in a couple of years
Right,
forward.
so let's meet in a couple of years forward. We'll see
You should.
what you get. Thank you very much. It was great journey through your career website and tips for for those folks who are designing, working on optimizing. Because setting up the career websites, like we see, nothing is like a huge effort, can be huge effort, but optimizing it, working it daily, using your analytics or any analytics stuff you can get it's important. So thank you very much for sharing it with us. It was Victor Rubin from BlaBlaCar, and so we go into your site now, right, to check all this EVP is updated.
Exactly. In a couple of months, maybe when this podcast is published, hopefully we've been able to update. We just finished the work with the EVP, and now all we have to do is to make it visible in a great way on our career
Wow,
site.
wow,
But thanks a lot for this invitation. I love working with the career site. It's one of my favorite projects that I
wow.
have, and I look forward to keep working on our nice jobs at bubblecard.com to make it as nice as possible.
Great. Hard fun of career website. I've not so many people like it, so so I'm really happy to have you. Thank you very much, and see you. You can obviously reach Victor through LinkedIn probably or career website, but
That's
LinkedIn will
right.
be best. If you have any questions, just reach him, and see you in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Bye.
again.